Hello, cookbook friends. This is your host, Carrie, and I'm here with my co-host, Kaiti, and you're listening to the Cookbook Divas podcast. Now, I know our last minisode was about cocktail and beverage pairings, but today is National Wine Day, and so we're going to talk about more beverages, wine.
Yay! Well, we kind of have to since you and I both love wine.
And we're wine bloggers, and if you'd like to know more about that, you can drop us a comment on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll tell you about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, on this minisode, we're going to talk about some of our favorite wine-oriented cookbooks. This includes cookbooks with food pairings and some wine guides that have recipes in them, and some sommelier books as well.
I love food history, and Carrie loves food history, and I love learning about people that have made strides in their field. So let's get started with our first cookbook pick. The first one on my list is Wine Style. Discover the wines you will love through 50 simple recipes. This comes out later in the year, so July 27th. Hopefully it doesn't get pushed out. It's by Kate Leahy, and this is going to come with 40 simple and delicious recipes with pairings as well. So the photos in here, because we love photos in this on this podcast, they are so pretty, and I'm looking forward to summer because all of these look like they're prime summertime. Everything's super bright, super colorful, just super awesome. A few recipes that are in here are cumin roasted cauliflower. This looks really good. They have harissa deviled eggs, and yeah, all of it sounds good. Something I'd like is lamb meatballs with yogurt sauce. We also have a roasted radicchio and beans. And they have they have serving sizes for each one of these, but then right next to the serving size, they have the wine types that go well with these particular dishes. So for instance, like when you're looking at the lamb meatballs with the yogurt sauce, one of the examples of wine that would go well with this is a Syrah or a Rosé. We also have, like, for the cumin roasted cauliflower, we have this is interesting because I just learned about orange wine, but a deeper hued orange wine is one of the pairings for this particular thing. So I think that's super helpful. That's really nice to have.
And now I'm really thirsty for orange wine. Thanks a lot.
I know. It's so good. So again, that is Wine Style. It comes out later on. It's July 27th. Definitely make sure to bookmark that for future reference.
My next book is Big Macs and Burgundy, Wine Pairings for the Real World. It's by Vanessa Price and Adam Lockoff, and I actually looked through this on video, so if you're curious, check out our YouTube channel, Cookbook Divas. And it's really non-pretentious, and it's like, hey, real people like to pair wine with things like popcorn and veggie burgers and General Tso's chicken, etc.
Yes.
So it's been a while since I looked through it, so I'm going to peek at the table of contents for a little refresher. The chapters are subsistence pairings for the shoestring sommelier. Scrappy doesn't have to mean crappy. So they have, as you can tell, they have quite a sense of humor. The second chapter is Southern Comforts, Bluegrass Basics for coastal elites. Chapter 3 is Extra Value Meals, McDonald's on Properly Lovin' It. Chapter 4, Roadside Attractions, Snack Rack Sister Acts, available at a gas station near you. Fast food fixes. Exactly what wine do you pair with fast food? I would be curious about Taco Bell personally. I usually just go for a Riesling though. Wine with breakfast is a chapter. The best part of waking up is fermentation in your cup.
Oh my god, I love this so much.
Chapter 7 is Trader Joe's, a love story. So as you can tell, Big Macs and Burgundy, Wine Pairings for the Real World is an awesome wine pairing book for most of us who are not wine snobs and try to never ever become them. Love it.
My next book is also supposed to be appealing to non-wine snobs, but I think they're trying to do that more often because I think people think that wine is, somehow pretentious, but it's really not. So I actually kind of appreciate the whole slew of cookbooks that are coming through that are, trying to emphasize that, hey, wine is for everybody. So mine is called Wine Time. 70 plus recipes for simple bites that pair perfectly with wine. It came out this year, March 23rd. It was by Barbara Scott Goodman. And I have to mention the photographer. Her name is Jennifer May, because these photos are also glorious. So some of the chapters you will find in this cookbook is Chapter 1 is Snacks and Bites. Chapter 2 is Dips and Spreads. Chapter 3, Cheese. Perfect. That's all I need. Chapter 4 is Vegetables. Chapter 5 is Bruschetta and Toasts. Chapter 6 is Seafood. Chapter 7 is Meat. Chapter 8 is Sauces and Condiments. And 9 is Wine Cocktails. So an example of one of the cocktails, of course, is going to be a champagne pomme fizz. And it looks really elegant, super pretty, but it's so easy to put together. It's like 4 ingredients. But I really like what they've done as far as you have the whole table of contents here with all the chapter listings. But underneath all the chapters, they actually just introduce all the different recipes you're going to find in each chapter right there. So having it all laid out for you so it's easier to host is really nice, in my opinion. I just kind of like that. And then it's all laid out perfectly for people that might have dietary restrictions too. So,
that's helpful.
It is. So like, you've got your whole cheese section you'd probably want to avoid if you've got vegans coming over. All 65 recipes are really awesomely easy, and that's important to me. They also list things like a charcuterie board and how to create them. I would love to learn more about that and how to have a successful hosting experience with charcuterie boards too.
Me too. I can't just dump stuff on a board anymore and be like, here's your olives and nuts, have fun.
I know,
it should look pretty.
Right. So that is Wine Time. 70 plus recipes for simple bites that pair perfectly with wine.
My next cookbook I actually own because I bought it last September when it came out in 2020. It's the Sommelier's Cookbook, Recipes and Wine Pairings for Discerning Palates by Joni Metavier. It is gorgeous. I'm so glad I bought it. Let's peek at the table of contents. I don't actually have the book in front of me because I didn't plan ahead that far. Chapter 1 is Wine and Food, a Love Story. Chapter 2 is Sparkling, Sweet, and Fortified Wines and what to pair with them. Chapter 3 is Whites and Rosé Wines, which is mostly what I drink in the summer when it's hot. Chapter 4 is Red Wines. Then they move on to the food. Chapter 5 is Snacks, Nibbles, and Sweets. And then Heartier Main Dishes, Chapter 7. Brunch, Lighter Main Dishes and Sides. And 6 Perfect Party Pairings. And then Takeout Pairings. Here I am with takeout food again, but
Yum.
not Taco Bell. Not the Taco Bell this time. There are 75 recipes, including main dishes, snacks, appetizers, and desserts. They also include in-depth reference info on 60 wine varietals and blends, including where they're grown, what they're called, and what food they taste great with. So when you're ready to entertain like a sommelier, you can use the suggested menus or put together a perfectly paired cheese board for your guests with the Sommelier's Cookbook, Recipes and Wine Pairings for Discerning Palates by Joni Metavier.
Next up is Wine Folly, the Magnum edition, the Master Guide. It's
super important book.
Right? It's by Madeline Paquette, who Carrie lives.
She lives near us in Woodinville, but we've never met her, and we would be starstruck if we ever saw her walking down the street, and we would leave her alone, but we'd want to say hi.
Okay, I really love this particular book because it is definitely breaking down the science of wine and the art. It is a lot of very, very interesting things in here. So there's a lot of facts about wine. For instance, I had no idea wine is mostly made out of water. Of course it is. And a tiny fraction of alcohol and then other stuff. I like that that is an actual scientific term she's put in there. Of course, within other stuff, she's created a little chart for what other stuff actually means. But I love that. A lot of the wines you have explanations for sweetness levels. So what a dry wine is and what that means, what sweet is, bone dry. There's so many things, what tannins are and what that taste is and what high tannins are versus medium to low tannins, acidity. I mean, seriously, this is like a wine knowledge, awesome thing to have with you. I really love the whole chart, the color charts that is provided in here with every glass of wine. And
they're so helpful. I learned so much from this book because I still have a lot to learn about wine, but
It's so visual. So it's not,
Yeah.
I like that. I like that it's not super preachy where it's just, an encyclopedia of just texts. I mean, it's very, very knowledgeable, but there's, photos to actually help you remember certain things. Like these charts are just really incredible and helpful. So they also have pairings. One of my favorite pairing lists in here with pairing with cheese. So she has like sparkling wine. And then on the other part of the graph, she has like salty crumbly cheese is one, or pungent blue cheese, sour cheese and cream cheese, delicate buttery cheese, etc., etc. And then under each bottle of wine, it says what is and what isn't good, or what's pretty neutral for each wine. And it goes from sparkling wine to dessert wine to red, white, all of it. It's amazing.
No actual recipes, but the pairing info is helpful because it's things like artichoke are so hard to pair and you can look it up.
Yeah. Oh, this is just really amazing. And each chapter, from what I can tell, it's divided into countries. So every country is listed, and then all the different kinds of wine that are provided from there, which I personally I have a lot to learn, and new wines are being developed all the time too, as resident Washingtonians, we know, because there's so many wineries here and there's so many awesome wines. So this is definitely something, if you love wine and you maybe even want to get into wine, or just want to understand kind of the art and science behind wine making, Wine Folly is definitely going to have to be on your shelf. It is, when they say the master guide, they're not kidding. So definitely check this out by Madeline Paquette.
My next book is Cheese, Wine, and Bread, Discovering the Magic of Fermentation in England, Italy, and France by Kaiti Quinn. Oh, she's from the YouTube channel Kaiti, and I know I've watched her before, but I'd forgotten about her. There's no actual photographs, but it's beautifully painted with watercolor illustrations, and it's science-oriented and scientific, and you'll learn a lot, but she does it in a really fun way so that you're not bored. She shares the stories and science behind everyone's favorite fermented favorites, cheese, wine, and bread, along with classic recipes. And she shares also her personal journey as an expat, discovering herself abroad. She became a cheesemonger in England. In Italy, she gave us an inside look at Italian winemaking at a winery. And then in France, she met the reigning queen of bread, who's Apollonia Poilon of, I think I just mispronounced that, of Paris's famous Poilon Bakery, and she apprenticed at a boulangerie in Paris, etc. So it's kind of a travelogue, kind of a survey of artisanal foods, and part cookbook with watercolor illustrations and also gorgeous photographs. Ooh, I might have to pick this up. You had me at photographs. That is Cheese, Wine, and Bread, Discovering the Magic of Fermentation in England, Italy, and France by Kaiti Quinn.
My final wine book is called The Wine Bible. This is the second edition. This came out in 2015. It's by Karen McNeil. There are no recipes in this book, but it is definitely, when they say encyclopedia, it is very, very, very much an encyclopedia. Every chapter is a different country, and that includes, so it's more than just European countries in here. So we have like France, Italy, Germany, Spain, etc. But we've also have the United States has one, which is great. We have Argentina, South Africa, Asia, Mexico, Chile. So a lot of different countries are encompassed in this book. And they go through each individual region and what wines are actually created in each place in a lot of detail, like an extreme amount of detail. So we even learn about grape genetics. We've been making wine forever as humans, so there's a lot of science behind it. So there's a lot of information, lots of interesting things to learn. And I wanted to include this just because we're a wine blog too. And I think this would be fun for even me to get, because I don't know as much about wine as I kind of want to learn more about wine and how to actually make it. And also knowing each name and the flavor profiles and why each one has the name it does is really, I just think it's interesting. So if you're interested in that, that is the Wine Bible.
Our final cookbook, we wanted to mention the Washington Wine and Food Cookbook, because we are from Washington and we know a lot of the winemakers and cooks in this book. They basically went and wrote about their favorite restaurants, who created recipes to pair with the favorite wineries. So if you're a Washington state resident like we are and you go to wineries, you'll recognize the winery names. For example, Cardis in Chelan, Mark Ryan Winery, wineries from Walla Walla, Woodinville, Tri-Cities, etc. Lots and lots of good recipes. A lot of them are a little bit above my personal grade of cooking. They're a little bit difficult. The photography is stunning. They do bios on the restaurant chefs and on the winemakers. You can learn a lot. And I wanted to point out that Washington is the second largest wine producer in the country, just barely behind California. We have 1,000 wineries. California has a few more. And there's 80 recipes in the book by the best chefs from Seattle. So that's the Washington Wine and Food Cookbook by Julian Perry. It came out in June 2020.
That is the last cookbook for our wine minisode. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure to subscribe and check us out every Tuesday and Friday for more podcast episodes. Come join us on Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, and our website for more delightful cookbook content at Cookbook Divas. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.